There are two kinds of people in this world. The first type are those that try to do something productive, but they keep breaking promises to themselves. They might get a burst of motivation here and there and actually spend their time improving themselves for a few days. But as soon as this motivation runs out, they are back to scrolling on social media and binge watching shows on Netflix. I call these type of people floaters because they rely so heavily on their emotional state, which by the way can change in seconds. They keep floating between procrastination and productivity. Because floaters are not able to be consistent at anything, they typically have a hint of sadness within them. They deep down know that they are not living up to their full potential and are instead just wasting away their precious lives one day at a time. The navigators. Unlike the floaters, the navigators do not rely on ever-changing emotion to be disciplined. They instead rely on systems and structures that they have built to guide their day. To the navigator, productivity almost becomes effortless. And that is why they are able to be consistent at the things they do. The navigators are overachievers. They are the kind of people who know how to get things done. And because navigators have so many healthy habits that they do consistently, they are far more satisfied with their lives. They wake up each day with a smile on their face, just ready to live out the day. My name is Jibreal Khan and I have been a floater for most of the early years of my life. But for the last 6 years, I've been working on transforming myself and becoming a navigator instead. In this video, I'm going to share with you my habit building system that played a major role in my transformation. And if you can implement this system in your own life, you are going to be able to form long-lasting habits almost effortlessly. So let's get right into it. Before we get into the habit building system, it is crucial that you understand how your brain perceives a task. Once you understand this, everything else is going to fall into place. According to your brain, every single task that you want to do has some sort of energy requirement. Let's call this activation energy. This is the energy required to just begin that task. Some activities have pretty low activation energy, things like brushing your teeth. So you don't really require much effort to do them and you can get them done fairly easily. Whereas some activities have a high activation energy. Because these tasks are just more physically or cognitively demanding, you need to understand that your brain does not really like spending a lot of energy. So if a task has too high of activation energy, your brain just prefers to avoid it. What most people do to try to get these high activation energy tasks done is that they pump themselves full of motivation or caffeine just so they can jump over this activation energy barrier and get that task done. And to be honest with you, this does work, but only in the short run. As soon as the motivation dips, they once again stop doing that habit. The true secret to building long-lasting habits is not motivation, but it is instead to lower the activation energy of the task, making it so low that it almost begins to feel automated and effortless. Now that you know this foundational principle, in the next sections of the video, we are going to discuss a system that does just that. The system has two major components and both of these are quite important. The first one is called the base routine. I want you to think of 3 or 4 activities that you would like to do consistently. For each of these 3-4 activities, I want you to think of the specific time of the day at which you would be doing them. The reason why knowing the exact time helps is because it greatly lowers the activation energy for these tasks. That's because it eliminates the process of decision making and wasting all that psychological energy debating yourself. These 3 to 4 habits now become your core tasks and you now know the exact point in the day at which you would be doing them. The next thing I want you to do is mark down the exact time at which you would be doing something called secondary tasks. Now, these are not really tasks related to productivity or your habits, but they're necessary to maintain a healthy life. Things like the time at which you're going to be eating lunch, dinner, and the time at which you're going to go to bed. Now that you know the exact time and have lowered the activation energy for most of your tasks, the next step is to lower the activation energy even more by eliminating friction from your core tasks. For example, if one of your core tasks is that you are going to study every day at 6 a.m., but each time you wake up, you find that your table is a complete mess and your notes are nowhere to be found, then in that moment, the task of studying is going to feel even harder because of all the extra problems that you have to deal with. So for each of your core tasks, I want you to ask yourself this question: how can I remove friction from this task? Some of the ways that I remove friction is that I make sure that my table is always clean because this this makes it a lot easier to just start working. Secondly, I choose to go to a gym that is walking distance away from my house rather than go to some fancy gym that is a 20-minute drive away. Thirdly, when I'm reading a book, I make sure that the bookmark is always present and that book is on my table before it's time for me to read. So now you have fixed the specific time and eliminated friction from your core tasks. But there is still just one problem. A lot of these habits that you want to do might be new to you. And when you do something that is new, your brain is not really optimized for those things. This leads to those tasks having a high activation energy and you're very likely to procrastinate them. The way that you deal with this problem is by greatly reducing the intensity of these activities for the first few weeks. So if one of your core habits is reading, then don't just go in thinking that you're going to read 50 pages a day. Start with probably just 5 pages a day. Your goal during the initial weeks is not to make earth-shattering effort or make rapid progress. Your goal is simply to make your brain more optimized for that particular activity. After doing that activity at low doses for 3 to 4 weeks, these things are going to become part of your identity because your brain is just so used to doing them. And that is when things are going to feel almost automated and effortless. I have followed my routine for so long that I don't even need to look at it anymore. It's just embedded in my head. And people think that I'm being very disciplined, but the truth is when you do the same thing at the same time every single day, then it begins to feel easy. And when you start feeling this way about a particular habit, that is when you can start progressively increasing its intensity. But if you increase the intensity too soon, you are going to end up stopping that activity. You know, each time you tick something off your to-do list, your brain actually releases dopamine. Dopamine is this neurochemical that is associated with happiness and motivation, and you can actually leverage this property. The way that I do this is by creating a habit tracking system for my core tasks. On this habit tracker, I basically collect numerical data or yes or no data about my core tasks. You don't need a fancy app. You can actually construct your own habit tracker on your notebook. So each time you successfully follow your routine and complete a core task, you can come and add information about that core task in this habit tracker. And this is going to make you feel really good. It almost makes me feel like I'm in some video game and I've just acquired new skill points and I've just leveled up my character. So you have your routine, which is like a map for the entire day. And then you have your habit tracker right next to it, which becomes your source of feeling good. But the thing is, someday you might want to change your core habits. Or perhaps there is exam season going on and you now wish to prioritize something else entirely. So how exactly is one supposed to deal with that? What I like to do is that I like to live my life in seasons. A season is nothing more than just a block of time. Each season that I have can be as short as 7 days or as long as 90 days. And for each season, I have a different objective in mind. For example, there are seasons when I'm really focused on entrepreneurship. And then there are seasons where I really prioritize martial arts. And during those seasons, I track completely different metrics. So if you feel like your core habits need a change, or some immediate concern needs to be addressed, or you're just going through a complete change in your routine, so feel free to start a new season with different objectives and different core tasks. You want to know brutal truth? As good as this system is, this system still might not work for you if your physical or your mental health are messed up. Because when your brain is not healthy, even the simplest of tasks appear to have a very high activation energy. This is why as you're implementing this system in your life, make sure that you're also spending effort into optimizing your mental and physical health. The way that I do this is that nearly all my secondary activities are health related. How many hours did I fast today? How many hours did I meditate? Even in my routine, I fix the exact times at which I'm going to be eating and the exact time at which I would go to bed. Because something as simple as eating your meals at regular times each and every day and going to bed at the same time every single day has an incredibly positive impact on your mental health. And I've actually observed this correlation between health and productivity time and time again. The days when I eat processed food or stay up late, my productivity takes a hit. So this is going to sound a bit silly and almost a bit contradictory. But when I'm living my life based on a routine, I put far more emphasis on activities that lead to better health than activities that are just purely about productivity. Because deep down I understand that if my physical and mental health are on point, then productivity is going to come naturally to me. So if you ever find yourself in this dilemma where you're required to choose between doing something productive or going to bed on time and getting good quality of sleep, then 9 out of 10 times I would say just pick the activity that gives you better health, because in the long run, health is the biggest indicator of your productivity. So in this video, you got the exact implementation of this habit building system. However, this system works best when you have the right mindset to go along with it. So make sure that you watch this video to get the key mental frameworks for discipline.